All right, yay! Comic Card Talk is back.
So am I.
Yes, and so is Nick.
Yeah.
After, well, the last time we did this was when we...
June, yeah.
Yeah.
For Free Comic Day.
For Free Comic Book Day. Captain America and the Avengers. And a couple other comics.
Power Rangers.
Yeah, and Power Rangers and Overwatch.
There was that new one we did too.
And Transformers Unicron.
We didn't do Unicron.
Yep. Are you sure?
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's been a while.
Anyway.
So, we went and saw
It's
Nightmare
February.
on February. My birthday was yesterday.
It was.
Yeah.
Happy birthday, Phil.
Yeah,
How old are you, Phil? Tell the camera how old you are.
I'm 27.
He's a big boy now.
Yay! And as I've been told, apparently Janis Joplin, Jim Morrison, Jimi Hendrix, they all died at 27. Isn't that
Ouch.
great? Okay, sorry. I mean, for any fans of those guys, I apologize. I was just trying to make a joke.
Don't apologize for your humor.
Yeah, well, it's...
Comedians are supposed to be insulting.
Yeah, that's true.
It is true. The
Yeah.
problem is he's a dirty Aquarius.
Yes.
Aquarians are not good people. I'm sorry.
Yeah, speak for yourself, Darth Sidious.
That's me.
So we went...
I am the Senate.
Execute Order 66.
Dit.
Yeah. Oh, I'm afraid the shield generator will be quite operational.
Off we go on a tangent. Anyway, so we saw
The original Nightmare on Elm Street, because
in theaters.
in theaters, yeah, we saw it at... Should we mention that theater?
We saw it at Regal.
Yeah, we saw it at Regal, yeah, in York, because we live in York.
That's where we are.
Yeah, so it's a matter of convenience.
It is.
And, yeah, because it's the 35th anniversary of Nightmare on Elm Street.
Long time.
I don't think it came out this month, though.
I am not sure. I'll be honest.
I mean, I think it was more of a summer movie.
I think it was a summer movie.
Yeah. So...
This was one of the later slashers, and I think by then they'd kind of fallen into the summer formula, yeah.
Yeah, and... Well, because the slasher formula was, like, being bludgeoned to death so much that somebody somewhere said, hey, you know what? Instead of having a mass killer going out and killing teenagers at random, let's do that, but with dreams.
Yeah, it was a nice mix of, like, your kind of serial killer, like, teen slasher, but also, like, kind of that, like, really weird, druggy, old-school fantasy feel of, like, the 70s.
It's kind of like if somebody took Philip K. Dick's story and made it into a slasher movie.
That's not a bad way of looking at it, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, imagine if Total Recall was like a slasher movie. Come on, Cohegan! Give those slashers air!
Oh, God. I don't know about that.
Funny thing, it's funny. I'm 27, and I saw the remake of Nightmare on Elm Street in theaters.
Yeah, what, 2004, 6?
2010.
2010?
Yeah, it came out 9 years ago.
It's a lot newer than I thought it was, okay.
Yeah, Cinema Snob did a review of it recently.
It's a mess.
Yeah, the remake... There was potential for the remake. There was. And
There was no Robert Englund, though.
well, I can understand why Robert Englund wouldn't do it.
I wouldn't if I was him.
Well, for one, it's a remake, so they gotta give it some fresh new blood. And Jackie Earle Haley was great.
Jackie Earle Haley's fine. I feel the reason he was there is because Watchmen just came out and people were real high off of Watchmen. And Jackie Earle Haley at that point was a pretty big name.
Well, yeah, then he also had an Oscar nomination for Little Children in 2006.
Yeah.
So he was getting back into the swing of things because he hadn't done acting in years, not since like the late 70s, early 80s. And then he started coming back in around the 2000s. And then after he did Little Children, after he did Watchmen, then he started getting Human Target and Nightmare on Elm Street remake and a bunch of other roles.
Now that you told everyone Jackie Earle Haley's cinema history, thank you.
Oh, he was in Bad News Bears.
Here we go. That's true, he was. But the point is, out of that movie, pretty much the only consistent opinion is that he was the best part. The rest was crap, which is no surprise for a
Yeah, I mean, the other actors weren't too bad. Well, I mean, you got Rooney Mara, you got Kyle Gallner, You got Katie Cassidy. You got Thomas Dekker. And,
Rooney Mara belonged in a much better film than that.
yeah. Oh, Connie Britton and Clancy Brown.
So did Clancy Brown.
Yeah. There's the obvious, Michael Bay produced it, so of course it's gonna suck.
Oh, yeah, he ruined Texas Chainsaw Massacre. He likes to ruin things.
The
That's his favorite thing.
thing of it was, and Cinema Snob even pointed this out, is that the Nightmare on Elm Street remake, it had a $35 million budget.
That's a big
A
budget
lot
for
of money for a
film.
slasher movie.
Big budget for a slasher film.
And it didn't need that.
No.
It didn't need that. I mean, the original Nightmare on Elm Street, and I understand you got to take into account inflation, the economies, and the 80s and
You're forgetting the fact that
late
Wes
2000s.
Craven was
so-
still a starter at that point. This was one of his early films.
No, he was quite experienced around the time he made the original Nightmare on Elm Street, because he had Last House on the Left and the original Hills Have Eyes under his belt,
Right, but
and a couple other flicks.
you gotta remember the fact that even though he had those movies, he wasn't regarded as fondly as he is now. You know,
Well,
I
he
mean,
did have a cult status around him.
right, but pretty much, I believe Hollywood saw him as kind of this splatterhouse guy that you kind of just
Yeah.
stick in the theaters if you want to make a quick buck
Yeah.
off of some thrills or like
And that's
shock value.
and that's the thing. That's the thing about the Elm Street remake, was that they made it just to make money. And I understand movies got to make money, but and I'm not trying to downplay anybody, because I want to make movies. I want to act and shit. And yeah, I would like to get paid for it. But at the same time, I also like to, enjoy what I'm doing at the same time.
problem is when you don't take the fandom into account.
The
When
fandom
there's a history.
and trying to make your own movie at the same time, because the Elm Street remake had too many callbacks to the original.
yeah,
I mean,
Texas
like
Chainsaw 3 suffered
the
from that
like
as well.
like the blonde chick. She was misleading into being the lead at first in the first 20 minutes, but then it turns out she's not the lead. Then she gets killed in almost the exact same way. Her boyfriend slash friends with benefits gets killed in jail. There's nobody getting killed in the bed.
Sadly.
Yeah. And, one interesting change I will say that they made in the remake was making Freddy from a child murderer to a child molester. Which was Wes Craven's original idea for Freddy.
Right, we didn't actually really see that, though, as I recall, until Freddy vs. Jason. They didn't really expand upon that and be like, yeah, he's a child toucher, until, like, Freddy vs. Jason, because we saw him with, like, the pair of, like, kitty panties or whatever.
And even in the original movies, they really just hinted at it.
It was very, very subtle.
Yeah.
It was something pretty much the fans came up with, I think. Or not necessarily that they came up with, but, like, you had to kind of be a fan of those films to really be like, yeah, that's a thing type of deal, which is pretty cool. But anyway, enough about the remake and such.
Yeah.
How did you like rewatching this in theaters?
Well, it's one thing to experience on your TV screen at home, but it's another thing to experience in theaters.
It's a huge difference, I think.
Yeah, and I had about the same experience with this that when I saw the Halloween 40th anniversary re-release in theaters.
That was this past October.
Yeah, and when I thought that it was the new Halloween movie getting released early or something, because they both have the same freaking title.
Right? Yeah, please work on your titles, Hollywood. Please.
Yeah, if they're, of course they're making a new Halloween, but for the love of criminy, if you're making a sequel, because of course they are,
Because of course they are.
don't call it Halloween 2. Give it a different title, okay?
Yeah.
Halloween Returns or something, because that's what the 2018 movie was originally going to be called. Halloween Returns. That would have been a much better title.
Much more sense.
But then again, that would probably give people flashbacks to Batman Returns and Superman Returns, though Batman Returns is a damn good
flashbacks.
movie, and Superman Returns is okay.
It's very okay.
It's like average.
Averages, yeah.
Yeah, well, considering who's in it and who made it, I think average is the best compliment we can give it.
It is. We are being generous.
Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, seeing the new Nightmare on Elm Street, it was actually pretty damn good.
The original, you mean?
Yeah, the original,
In theaters, yeah. It's a new experience. We are old heads at this point, but we are not young enough to have experienced Freddy in the theaters at all, really, because when his later films came out, we were too young to see them.
Yeah.
And
I wasn't even born yet by the time his supposed final movie came out.
right.
And by the time his other movie came out after that, New Nightmare, I was 2 years old. So there was no way I could have seen any of them. The first time I ever saw a Freddy movie was Freddy vs. Jason.
Same, actually, yeah. He was the first I actually experienced in theaters. It was a good time. But yeah, it's not a good introduction to the series at all.
Yeah.
But this was nice because it was the original. It was in theaters. And that always makes a difference to me. I know some people I know it doesn't. I think that's just because they don't, like, when you're really into movies, like halfway near obsessed, like Phil and I are.
Yeah.
Like, seeing a movie 10 times is nothing to you, and seeing a movie in theaters on the big screen is a new experience almost.
Yeah.
Whereas a lot of my friends who are less into movies, they enjoy them, but they're not like obsessive like we are like, I've already seen that, I don't need to see it in theaters. And I can understand that feeling, but in my opinion, this makes a big difference because on my TV, I can turn the sound up to, like, max, and, like, you know, my TV isn't that big. Maybe if I went to someone with a home theater, it'd be different, but the point remains, if you see it in an actual movie theater, you're gonna get that loud surround sound, it's gonna be dark, everyone's gonna be there, which is neat. And then you got that huge screen, and it made such a big difference to me. Like, the first few minutes when, like, you hear Freddy's claws and he stabs through the cloth, I was like, oh my god, this is so good. Like, it was like kind of seeing it for the first time all over. It was pretty great. I loved it. It was fantastic.
Yeah. And that's what we were talking about before we recorded, how the transitioning, you know, into the theater screen is much different.
It was very good. I was really surprised.
I was surprised that, that there wasn't such it didn't have a film grainy effect.
It didn't look like stretched or small or gross.
Or you didn't see little black spots all over the place.
Yeah. I remember when I went and saw House, the Japanese horror film. Hilarious. Go see it. It's an old movie. It's on the Criterion, but they had it playing in a theater in Pittsburgh, and I went and saw it, and I loved it. But, like, it was, like, kind of grainy and smushed and didn't look great, you know? So, like, I was afraid I was going to run into that again. I was like, all right, just be prepared type of thing. But, you know, when it started, I was like, uh-oh, here we go. Because it was like a small kind of squished, cropped square. And I was like, oh, dear, all right, suck it up. But then, like, after the initial first few minutes, the first scene, it stretched out into, like, the full screen. I was like, oh, look at that. Like,
yeah.
I was very impressed. I was very happy about that. Because it didn't look crappy, like Phil said. It didn't look stretched like I was afraid of. It just looked really good. I was very happy with it.
The only way you can tell that the movie was made at the time period it was made in is, one, the audio.
Oh yeah.
Because despite the fact that the cinematography and everything else, they almost look like it could have passed for something that came out from today. Almost.
Stretching it, but okay.
Well, that's what I'm going to get with the second one.
Okay.
Like, the audio, it sounds like they're talking into an old-timey microphone.
Yeah, you're going to hit that with these movies.
Especially early on when they're first going into school. When you see Tina, Nancy, and Glenn, when they're coming in, I can't quite tell if their dialogue is matching up with their lip movement. Something tells me there was a bit of an ADR mix-up.
Yeah, I can definitely see what you're saying there. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
The 80s definitely comes through at certain points.
But in other scenes, the audio, the lip syncing matches up pretty good. Mm-hmm. The other thing that still seems dated, well, actually, there's another thing after that. But, okay.
The second thing
is that despite the fact that on a modern day theater widescreen, stretching it out, not with no letterboxes or anything like that, or it's crammed in. Mm-hmm. Everybody looks like they're stepping out of a matte painting.
Yeah, I can see where you're saying that, sure.
But then again, that does kind of add to the dreamlike quality of the film, the premise, and the story itself.
It doesn't overall hurt it, I agree.
So it's actually more of a compliment now that I think about it.
debatable. You could see it as an issue, but at the same time, you could see it as adding to the overall mystique of the film.
Yeah.
Maybe.
And the third thing, it definitely looks like it takes place in the time period it takes place in.
Well, I mean,
It was made in the 80s, so therefore it's going to look like it was set in the 80s.
sure, but I mean, you can do that now. I would discount that simply because of the fact that you've got movies coming out now that were like take place in the 50s and they go out of the way to make it look like the 50s.
And I get it. You had different technology, different methods of filmmaking back then than you do now. Though you can still sort of do those things now, only with different technology or similar technology. I don't know.
What are you getting at?
I don't know. I'm rambling.
He's rambling. Ignore him. Anyway.
We just need Christopher Nolan to make this and make it like a dream within a dream within a dream within a dream, and a lot of Hans Zimmer
No thanks.
And that's funny. That's funny.
Dear. Here we go.
Nightmare on Elm Street remake and Inception both came out the same year.
That's true, they did.
How does that happen?
I don't know. People
Like,
make things.
but yeah, no, and for a slasher movie where they say that, oh, it's always the girl that gets hunted or whatever. No, Nancy is very forward in this.
Yeah, she ends up being kind of a survivalist badass at the end, which is neat.
Yeah.
It's kind of a silly, like, it just reminds people today of, like, Home Alone and Saw, which I just think is hilarious, and I always loved seeing that.
Yeah.
It's pretty silly. It's great.
And
She's a good last girl.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Nancy Thompson can't beat that.
You can beat that. Jamie Lee Curtis. You do not top Jamie Lee Curtis. You don't. I'm sorry, you don't.
Sigourney Weaver.
Sigourney Weaver's awesome, but she's not Jamie Lee Curtis. I will die on that hill if I have to.
They did star in a movie together.
It's true.
Yeah, You Again. Which, less said about that, the better.
Yeah.
I've only seen bits of it, and the only good thing about it that I remember from it was Hall & Oates play at the end.
Well, let's be clear. You only need to see a bit of that.
Yeah, and you only need to see the Hall & Oates bit.
If you have to watch any of it.
It's Hall & Oates. How can you not watch Hall & Oates?
There's plenty of reasons not
I've been to a Hall & Oates concert, so... Yeah, it's Hall & Oates, okay? If you have to see an entire crappy movie just to get a Hall & Oates moment, I'll probably just skip to the Hall & Oates moment.
Do yourself a favor. It's true.
Yeah.
So, overall, I think we both enjoyed it pretty thoroughly.
Yeah, and, okay, and of course there's the usual argument of, like, okay, out of all the Elm Street movies, which is your personal favorite, or which do you think is the best? And that includes the remake, too. Okay, if I had to say what was my favorite of the Elm Street movies, and bear in mind, I have not watched all of them. Of the ones that I've seen, I'd have to go with number 3.
Yeah, for me, it's like a fight to the death between 1 and 3. I like them both an awful lot. Yeah. My biggest gripe with 3 is that there just wasn't enough done with the Dream Warriors. But yeah, it's either 1 or 3. They're both very good.
That and Nancy died in it.
Yeah.
Which, okay, I guess it seemed like a fitting end to her character arc, I guess.
Her
but
character arc's not done, I don't think. I believe they bring her back up in the comics, which
and she sort of
canon.
And she sort of returns in New Nightmare, I guess.
It's a weird thing.
And Rooney Mara basically plays Nancy in the remake, but it's not exactly the same Nancy.
It's not.
It's her last name's different. And that's another thing about the remake that really irks me in comparison to the original. The characters were, for the most part, even despite them being early in their acting career, because you can kind of tell, they at least seemed three-dimensional. Whereas in the remake, they're like all miserable. They're all like miserable, mopey emos.
Well, yeah, that was the thing in 2010.
I get that was kind of the thing, but I wish they had more personality and didn't speak such cliched dialogue.
Again, the only good thing about that movie was Jackie Earle Haley. Everyone agrees on that point.
Yeah. So, crap, where was I going again? I lost track. I lost track with my rambling.
Oh, dear.
But yeah, Nightmare on Elm Street 3 Dream Warriors. probably my personal favorite.
It's a good
so
movie. It's
far.
neat.
I have yet to see 4. I've seen 5. I've seen Freddy's Dead. I have not I've only seen bits of New Nightmare, so I haven't watched it in its entirety. But so yeah, for
It sounds
now,
like we have some watching to do.
yeah. So for now, Nightmare on Elm Street 3.
Okay. Like I said,
Wait, what
3
about
or
the,
1?
what about the Freddy's Nightmares TV show? Does that count at all?
No, I watched some of that. It was crap.
Well, Robert Englund was in it, so that had to be some quality to it.
When he shows up, it's neat, but he doesn't show up very much. My guess is they couldn't afford him for very long.
Yeah.
It's like a bad version of the 90s Twilight Zone episodes, which are already pretty bad sometimes. Or like a crappy version of Tales from the Crypt. It wasn't good.
Yeah.
At all.
Well,
Same with the
they
Jason TV show.
Nightmare on Elm Street was big, so they wanted to
They wanted to cash in.
just cash in as much as possible.
Oh yeah. That's
So why not put it on television?
Yep.
Even though that probably wouldn't seem like a very good idea considering the movie's subject matter.
Considering, but they did it somehow, for some reason, some way.
Yeah. And of course they're talking about doing another Elm Street, another remake or reboot,
Well,
whatever.
that's only because Halloween did well enough.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
the problem.
even beforehand they were talking about it, but that was just it, just talks.
Always is just talk.
But now with Halloween being successful, then yeah, there's the possibility.
Mm-hmm.
And Robert Englund said that he would like to do it. He says he's got one more in him, and all the better. I mean, I saw that clip from the Goldbergs, and okay, you can kind of tell that he's. I mean, I don't mean to insult Robert Englund, but you can kind of tell he's aging with it. But maybe that was just the point because it's a comedy show,
Probably that one.
so they were doing it for comedic purposes.
That being said, though, I'm sure the guy wants to retire.
Yeah, well, or at least from the Freddy role, and pass the torch on to another person. But then somebody somewhere is going to be like, "No, there's only one Freddy Krueger, and that's Robert Englund."
Well, there is. They're correct.
Yeah, but when you've done it for so long, you got to pass it on to a new generation and
Not
let
necessarily.
it be its own
You
thing.
don't have to necessarily pass it on, but you could just do something different in the vein of Wes Craven. You could do an homage to Wes Craven and do your own version of a serial killer that isn't Freddy. That's okay. That would be a lot. That would be a lot better and a lot more creative, frankly.
I guess. And don't do stupid CGI like the remake did. Like, for crying out... Look, I get it. I mean, you want to use CGI, but do it in a way that sort of corrects mistakes when you're using practical effects.
Practical effects definitely lend themselves to horror movies, or just movies in general, but especially horror movies. Like, CGI doesn't do well in horror, I feel like.
Well, depending on how you do it.
Well, I mean, like, when you rely on it.
Yeah, if you rely on it too much, it's just
It
hollow, and you don't really feel anything.
Well, it takes away because, you gotta think, like, the classic horror, any kind of classic horror, whether it be the slashers or the Universal Monsters or the Hammer films, they came from these humble roots of we use what we got. We're on a shoestring budget, so we do the best we can type of thing.
Oh, free drink, by the way.
It wasn't free. It was a free
Well,
refill.
okay, free refill. My bad.
Good for you. Anyway, they came from a shoestring budget, so using all this CGI to make your film better, in quotes, just sort of takes away from the genre. But I don't want to sound like...
Just use it to touch up, like you're using it as an airbrush or like a Photoshop-y type thing, I guess.
It can be used in small areas. I agree
Just
with you.
use it in small doses. If you use it too much all over the place, it's like you're overcompensating.
Let's put it this way. Don't use CGI so little that you end up with Texas Chainsaw Massacre, where everyone had to basically almost die. But don't go crazy with it. Like, say, Alone in the Dark, God forbid. That was really CGI.
Yeah. I mean, you look at how the Blumhouse movies do it with very low budget, like at least like a $1 or $2 million per movie, maybe more depending on what kind of movie it is that they're doing, and just do it like that.
They're very hit or miss, though.
They can be hit or miss, but they are profitable.
Only because you do a shotgun blast, you're gonna hit a target somewhere. Just gonna.
Yeah.
Blumhouse has had some good ones. It's just that
they
also just
because
throw a grenade at a single target and are like, we hit it.
Yeah, I mean, you're gonna have some duds here and there, but
That's for sure.
even some duds can provide a big explosion, I guess. I don't know.
We get to cult following, sure.
Depending. I mean, I saw Happy Death Day the first.
Happy Death Day.
That one was freaking hilarious.
It's goofy, and the second one looks even goofier.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that one.
It's gonna be silly, just
Yeah.
like the first.
Yeah, I mean, I enjoyed the hell out of the first one, and I'm looking forward to the second one. And speaking of second ones, Nightmare on Elm Street 2, it's not as bad as a lot of people make it out to be.
A lot of people complain about it. I think it's.
I think it goes a
got some
little
good stuff.
over the top with the complaints for the second one. I understand why, at least the more reasonable complaints, but the rest it goes a little too over the top because
It's got some good scenes, and I enjoy the symbolism personally.
symbolism.
You're funny.
Yeah, you son of a bitch! You killed him!
That's what I get to deal with. Right here. You envy me? I don't envy me.
Oh wait,
Oh, jeez, here we go.
I am Groot.
He thinks that's so great.
I am Groot.
Thank you for being part of the internet
Yes,
and putting up something about Groot.
yes,
Which everyone suddenly discovered when Guardians of the Galaxy came out and now is in love with.
yeah. Oh wait, yeah, Baby Groot. What'd you think of Nightmare on Elm Street?
Jeez.
What? What's that? I am Groot. Of course. All right. Well, that's our thoughts on Nightmare on Elm Street, the original.
Send help.
I mean, is this a dream? Are we dreaming?
This is the part where like someone in the back seat grabs you. That'd be great. I wish you had a third person with us.
Yeah. Wait. Ah!
Oh god,
That was me.
that was horrible.
Yeah.
You should end the video right there with
Yeah.
being grabbed. It'd be pretty funny.
All right. Let's try it again.
No, you already did it. Just
Yeah.
use that take. It was fine. Honest, it was pretty scared the shit out of me actually because I wasn't ready for it. So use that because I legitimately jumped. So just cut it off with you being grabbed. You'd be perfect.
No. We gotta end it. We gotta end it with us rambling because
No.
it's funnier that way.
No. I like it better with you getting grabbed. That was funny.
But
and
it's funnier if we leave it running
No.
like this.
No, I disagree.
If we leave it running
No.
like this, it's funny
No.
to me.
It's funny to you, but you can use it. You can use that as like a after credits thing. Like do the credits and then have
I
us
don't
be
know
like
how to
redo
do
it.
after credits. I'm too lazy for that.
Oh, you can handle it.
All right. Bye bye.